underwriting is not just a prediction, it's your business plan. And I know that sounds pretty simple and obvious, but oftentimes we get caught up in the weeds as far as making our projections and predictions about the exit cap rate or future rent growth and what can we raise rents to if we renovate to this certain scope. And so we're kind of blending projections and the actual business plan. And so it's always a challenge between the acquisition side of the business and the asset management and the operations side of the business because the two might have different ideas as far as what the business plan actually is and what is feasible, what is aggressive, what is conservative. And this is why we work super hard to actually integrate and marry all aspects of the business, acquisitions, asset management, property management, and so on, even HR and accounting. Everyone has to be on the same page. And this is why I say that underwriting, the right underwriting, is not just a prediction, it's a literal plan, and it should be shared and touched by all departments in the company. And so what we do is we sit down, we have underwriting meetings or budget meetings where the asset management and the operations team work with our acquisitions team to put together the budget, which then feeds through to the underwriting, and vice versa. There's a lot of knowledge on the acquisition side because our acquisitions team is sifting through hundreds of deals per year, looking at sellers' P&Ls all year long, and so they know exactly what's going on in the market as far as lease trade-outs, as far as renovation scopes, premiums, expense comps, and so on. And so that information helps inform the asset management side of the business to be able to make better budgets, to be able to figure out how to run the business plan more efficiently. And so something that we've been investing in more and more is really, like I said, marrying the two departments, which includes having these budget underwriting meetings, incorporating the CapEx budget into the underwriting model, and acknowledging and kind of sharing the plan to the asset management team. Too often I've seen the acquisitions team come up with this big plan and then go through the transaction, the deal is closed, and then it's just handed off to the operations team, and they're kind of rebuilding the plan from scratch after they take over and the dust settles and they figure out what makes sense here. So that causes delays and it makes it so that the plan is not efficient or optimal because we've already put a lot of time ahead of the actual closing as far as what makes sense so we can hit the ground running and actually start implementing our business plan right away. One of the biggest things that people miss in their underwriting actually, which is more so on the operations side of things, is your recurring CapEx or your replacements, right? So everyone's focused on their operating assumptions as well as their CapEx assumptions, but then forget about the recurring replacements. And especially for older properties, this can be a really big number and dramatically throw off your actual cash flow and eventual returns. And so what I mean by this is, generally speaking, you have your revenue side, which is the income coming in from the tenants, and then you have everyday operating expenses to keep the property going, such as your payroll, such as your landscaping contract, your pest control, your utilities, your property taxes, insurance, your marketing budget, your admin costs like softwares that you use and office supplies. And those are just everyday expenses that happen on a recurring basis. And then you have your replacements or your recurring CapEx. And so this is stuff that, frankly, it's a bit more of an art than science because this stuff also recurs pretty much every year, but we call it CapEx, which is more like one-time expenses. But these could be like major landscaping. So you might have, for the new season, you might spend $20,000 on putting in new landscaping and kind of enhancing curb appeal. You might actually, on a takeover, rebrand the property and purchase new signage, which a new signage package can cost $40,000. And so, that might be just a one and done. You do that once, and that would really more so go into your CapEx budget. But recurring CapEx that happens every year, that's stuff like repairing or replacing appliances, replacing flooring, and doing bigger ticket items, but still happen on a yearly basis, like HVAC replacements rather than repairs. So a lot of people kind of ignore that or just forget that or assume that their upfront CapEx budget is going to handle all that. But the problem is yes, your upfront CapEx budget, assuming you're properly budgeted and capitalized, can handle those replacements for the first couple of years of the deal. But if you end up holding the property for 3, 4, 5 years and more, then you really want to have factored the budget for those replacements out of your operating cash flow. And like I said, for older properties, this is an even bigger problem because the older the property is, the larger that the recurring CapEx is, because generally speaking, an older property is in worse condition, so there's just more maintenance that's just always popping up. You've got roof repairs popping up, you have foundation issues popping up, plumbing issues, especially for older properties, pop up all the time, and that's just going to eat away at your cash flow. So your net operating income might look great on the older property, which is why that older property, you might have been attracted to it in the first place because of its higher cap rate. But that actual higher NOI might not convert to actual higher cash flow because it's getting eaten away by the higher replacements, which could be solved for by one, underwriting for it accordingly going in, and two, doing upfront CapEx, curing all the deferred maintenance all up front, so that way you don't have as much recurring CapEx happening year after year. Now, there's not one right answer, right? I'm not saying that if you raise $2 million up front and go and cure all the deferred maintenance, that that's the right move because it's capital intensive, right? That's $2 million extra dollars that you have to spend and raise right up front when you close the deal, rather than doing it over time over the 5 years of cash flow. But one is going to be better for the IRR, one's going to be better for the cash on cash, right? If you do it all up front, it's going to be more capital intensive, but it's going to kind of synthetically or financially engineer higher cash flows throughout the hold period, because now the NOI is more of it is just free cash flow because you're not using as much of it for replacements. So for the underwriting purposes, you need to have all these different budgets talk to each other and actually be married. So you can't do them in isolation. You have to have all your teams and all your brain come together on what is our operating budget, what is our CapEx budget, and then what is our replacements budget throughout the entire hold period. And of course, you want to have contingencies and reserves in case you end up holding the property for longer, or in case construction costs are higher, or the property is in worse condition, or there's unexpected expenses that pop up. So I'll give you an example as to how these things can work together. So for example, I'll focus on R&M because these are pretty much all repairs and maintenance related expenses. On an operating basis, just to make numbers simple, you might have $1,000 per unit as far as your repairs and maintenance budget. And this will cover your turnover costs and just your everyday repairs to your appliances, hardware repairs, light electrical and things like that. So if you have a 200 unit property and you have $1,000 per unit for your operating budget, that's a $200,000 per year that you're spending on operating expenses. Now, the below the line element of that is going to be your replacements, right? Because when an apartment vacates and you now have to turn it over and make it ready for the next tenant, you're going to go in there and you're going to see, okay, do I have to replace these appliances, or can I just do some repairs and keep them? Do I have to do a full paint, or can I do a touch-up? Do I have to am I going to fully replace the flooring, the countertops? So there's these considerations that it's repair versus replace, and one of them is OpEx, the other is CapEx, or recurring replacements. So if a property is like, a value add deal or a little bit older, like an 80s vintage asset, then you might be looking at another $1,000 per unit per year in replacements. Because obviously when it comes to an HVAC repair, it's going to cost you this, and when it comes to replace, it's going to cost you $2,000 per unit, but it's only going to be happening for perhaps 10, 20% of your units per year. And so these are some of the assumptions on the back end that you have to make, but I'm just making some broad generalizations that you've got $1,000 per unit per year on OpEx, and then $1,000 per unit per year on your recurring CapEx. Now, another piece of the puzzle actually are the lender's replacement reserves. And so lenders actually mandate a replacement reserve that they escrow to themselves every single month as part of your monthly mortgage payment. And so this is typically around $300 per unit. And so this is exclusive of your $1,000 per unit repairs and maintenance budget. So you're going to take that and assume that you're going to spend that and then draw that down from the lender. So now you actually only have to factor $700 per unit for your recurring CapEx that is hitting your cash flow below the line. Now, like I said, this isn't necessarily correct, but you could account for that all through a pre-raised CapEx budget. So you could say, okay, I plan to hold the property for 5 years. I'm going to need $700 per unit per year of recurring replacements, and I'm going to do 700 times 5 years. That's $3,500 per unit, and that's my CapEx budget to handle my interior replacements that I'm going to do over the 5 years, and the exterior repairs, plumbing, etc. And what you could even do, since you're raising that $3,500 per unit all up front, you could go in there and just knock it all out up front, at least the exterior stuff, which is actually a great thing to do upon takeover to really clean up a property, enhance the curb appeal, and try to improve the leasing efforts and retention efforts of the community. And then, doing the interior repairs and enhancements ongoing through turns. So as you can see, all these different elements speak to each other. If you're underwriting a little bit lighter on R&M OpEx, you might have to go a bit heavier on your pre-raised CapEx or your recurring replacements that you underwrite below the line. And then, of course, depending on what the lender mandates as far as a replacement reserve, because they might say, oh, the replacement reserve is $250 per unit, or it's $500 per unit, which would be on the very high end, that could then dictate how much you want to actually budget in your model for the upfront CapEx as well as recurring CapEx.